Hello Year 2 and welcome to our last lesson on our text map. By the end of today's lesson, we'll have finished writing about our character and I'm really looking forward to seeing those on tapestry. I've got a lot of reading to do next week. Right, before we start, we're going to just have a look at the very last part of our text map, why Mary will be remembered. Mary cared for the soldiers, gave them food, and treated them with her remedies. Sometimes she even went onto the battlefield to look after them. They called her Mother Seacole. In 1856, the war ended and Mary returned to London, but with very little money. The soldiers raised money for her, and she even met Queen Victoria. She was awarded 4 medals for her bravery and wrote a book about her life. So I'm going to think about what I can take from that to help. So I was thinking about the fact that she gave the soldiers food and treated them with her remedies. And I was thinking about maybe in my ice cream factory, I can use some unusual ingredients or ingredients that are made locally so that I use British ingredients. Then I was thinking about maybe what it said about Mary even went onto the battlefield. I don't want to go onto any battlefields, thank you very much. But I was thinking that I could even work on the factory floor mixing the ice creams. So I could do something that would be unusual for someone who owned a factory. And then I was thinking about who I could meet. So I could meet Queen Elizabeth. She met Queen Victoria. I could meet Queen Elizabeth, and I could be awarded medals for doing something amazing for the British economy, for the money in the country. And maybe instead of writing a book, I could write a recipe book, a non-fiction book with a content and an index. So let's have a look. So we're going to read why Mrs. Gabella will be remembered. I'm too short. My arms are too short for this. I can't reach all the way across my page. Should have a ruler, but I don't have a long one. Why Mrs. Gabella will be remembered. Right. So Mrs. Gabella made her ice creams using ingredients from England. And I want to make sure that I use my commas in a list. So I'm going to add that in now. Mrs. Gabella made her ice creams using ingredients from England, including, so these are my ingredients, including milk, because you have to have milk in ice cream, fruit, and chocolate. So Mrs. Gabella made her ice creams using ingredients from England, including milk, fruit, and chocolate. Not sure if that goes in the same ice cream though. I'll have to think about that one. She even, what did I say I was going to do? I was going to work in the factory. She even worked in the factory testing new recipes. Don't want to do anything about after the war. She met Queen Elizabeth, capital letters, because it's her name, And one, I'm going to copy Mary. I'm going to have 4 awards. And won 4 awards for her delicious, amazing ice creams. I'm just going to take this off because it's in my way. Mrs. Gabella also wrote an ice cream recipe book. I'm just going to read that through and make sure I haven't repeated myself and it makes sense. Why Mrs. Gabella will be remembered. Mrs. Gabella made her ice creams using ingredients from England, including milk, fruit, and chocolate. She even worked in the factory testing new recipes. She met Queen Elizabeth and won 4 awards for her delicious, amazing ice creams. Mrs. Gabella also wrote an ice cream recipe book. I'm hoping that that's my whole text map sorted. Now, we're going to go back to the beginning and have a read of it all the way through. Mrs. Gabella. Mrs. Gabella born. Mrs. Gabella was born in London in 1970. Occupation. Mrs. Gabella was an inventor who came up with new flavours of ice cream. Early life. When she was young, Mrs. Gabella's grandfather would give her money to spend on ice cream. Mrs. Gabella tried lots of different flavours from lots of different shops where she lived. Mrs. Gabella lived in Italy and China, where she learnt about the history of making ice cream. After that, she travelled to Canada to learn how Ben and Jerry make their ice cream. Finally, she came back to open her own factory in England. Achievements. Mrs. Gabella was hopeful that she would be able to make numerous flavours of ice cream and that people all over the world would eat her ice cream. She opened the largest ice cream factory on the planet, just 2 miles from where she lived. Why Mrs. Gabella will be remembered. Mrs. Gabella made her ice creams using ingredients from England, including milk, fruit, and chocolate. She even worked in the factory testing new recipes. She met Queen Elizabeth and won 4 awards for her delicious, amazing ice creams. Mrs. Gabella also wrote an ice cream recipe book. We are done. So it's your turn. Now, the whole way through, I've been saying, don't put your work onto Tapestry yet. Don't put your work onto Tapestry yet. As soon as you have finished your Why You'll Be Remembered, please put your work onto Tapestry. I'm really looking forward to seeing what you would like to be when you grow up and what you've written and how you've written it as well. So maybe like me, you've written a text map that's gone onto lots of pieces of paper. Maybe you've written a book like we started off with our Mary Seacole book with chapters and subheadings. Maybe you've done it a completely different way that I haven't even thought about, and I would love to see what other ideas you came up with so that when we teach this to year 2 next year, we can show them the ideas that you've had. It's been really great writing this with you, year 2, and I hope that you've really taken time to make sure that your writing is neat, that you've read it back to yourselves to make sure that it makes sense, and I am so excited to be reading them. Take care and I'll see you soon.